colleagues and former colleagues. We are starting a series of investigations on Indian business houses, basically along the Lootwallahs. This is the first of the series, how Indian business is looting Indians. And it's a very warm welcome to all of you, and especially the panelists. Paranjoy needs no introduction. He is a crusader, campaigner, and a moral light for all of us with a series of investigations he's done throughout his life. On my right, Abhinandan is the co-founder of News Laundry, and which is perhaps India's premier website, subscriber base. And on my extreme left is Ushinor Mazumdar, who is a writer, journalist, lawyer, amongst many other things. He's working on a book on the drug use in India, which is scheduled shortly. This investigation is about the ADAG group, the Anil Ambani group, and we had started it from much before the ED and other agencies got in and started the investigation on him. And the first public whiff of it was, I think, when SBI and a few other banks started declaring the loans lent to the ADA group as fraud loans. And of course, it's escalating day by day. And obviously, we were piecing together the pieces about the movement of money, how the money moved from here and there in different entities. And actually, fraud is exactly what happened and much more than fraud. And we look at businesses, suppose we look at businesses, and businesses go down maybe because of faulty business plans or faulty implementation of things, and the business generally go wrong. But from day one, from the moment he raised money from IPOs, or he raised money from bonds, or he took loans from public sector banks, immediately there is a concurrent money trail of monies being diverted to shell entities and back to his holding companies and other things that have happened simultaneously as he's been raising money. So there was a intent to divert and defraud his own companies and enrich himself from the very beginning. It is a trait seen throughout in all ADAG companies. I'll start with what I'm going to do today is yesterday we were breaking this story at 12 o'clock as we have started today. But what we wanted to do was withhold the name of the group involved till 12 o'clock. But what happened was yesterday we had sent a detailed questionnaire to the ADAG group on the 19th of this month. We received no reply to any of our detailed questionnaires. We sent repeated reminders, and it was maybe 80-90 questions. I don't remember ballpark how many questions, but it was a very detailed questionnaire. Yesterday was the final reminder we sent in the morning, updated it, our questionnaire. And then in the evening we received a defamation notice, and which said that you are, this is the first time I've heard of a notice where before the story comes out, they're accusing us of defamation. And a lot of media started carrying this news, and I was perplexed. Nothing has happened, how have we defamed them? But in any case, we have responded. They didn't answer a single question of ours. There was an attempt to intimidate us so that we don't do this press conference and basically make us to cease and desist. But we have responded. We have put their entire series of allegations which were part of the notice that they sent to us in our cover story, in our press release, in our YouTube, everywhere, so that they don't get a chance that we have not given them appropriate space or appropriate chance. Of course, we deny each and every allegation that they have made. And a detailed notice we have published the whole notice on our website. So any of you who want to see what exactly is the notice about can go to our website and have a look at it. It's hyperlinked on our site. Now I'll start my my PPT presentation. It's about 50 slides, and please bear with me. So this is basically we discovered 28,000 crore worth of diversion, and also 1.5 billion dollars of money that had come in from offshore accounts, etc., in a very, very dodgy way. So go back, yeah. So this is, as I said, 1.5 billion dollars laundered offshore, siphoned off money from banks, from his various listed companies, 28,874 crores. Total public wealth loss, let me tell you, this is not a notional figure like in 2G. This is a hard figure. And please go to the next slide. This indicates your share, your market cap, what it was in 2008 and what it became in 19. So there is a loss to investors, thousands of institutional investors, retail investors of 1.59 lakh crores. Of the total creditor claims, that is loans and etc., which they raised across their companies, just to give you a context, was 1.78 lakh crores, out of which in NCLT and other places across the table, total claims settled was a mere 15,515 crores. So if you look at it, total admitted claim debt, total settle is just this, total loss to stakeholders in terms of loss is 1,62,976 crore. So basically he caused a wealth loss in India of 3,38,212 crore. This is a total public wealth loss in terms of loans taken from banks, in terms of market loss of market cap. What was the modus operandi of the ADAG group? Borrow, secure massive loans from public sector banks, through a deceptively simple four-step pattern: borrow, secure massive loans using the group's credibility, which was very high at that point of time, siphon off these funds by granting sham loans to a complex web of shell companies with no real business. Then step 3, redirect, route the money from these shell companies back to the promoter entities. And step 4, write off the loans and default on the original bank loans, leaving public institutions holding basically pieces of paper worth nothing. Then diving deeper into the playbook, funds were routed from multiple pass-through entities, often with common addresses and cross-directorships, to reach promoter-controlled companies. These liabilities were then written off through a creative accounting and related party reclassifications. Parallel offshore structures in BVI, Cyprus, Singapore, etc. were used to round-trip, violating FEMA end-use provisions. We found quid pro quo financing like an 800 crore tranche from Yes Bank with audit trail systematically buried. Of course, we'll tell you about 2009. It was reported that Anil Ambani brought Tina Ambani a personal luxury yacht. Our investigation shows that the Indian public paid approximately $20 million for it. This was done through elaborate corporate structure, which we will get into. This purchase shows slide 10 here. Initial setup. The purchase shows funds meant for business being diverted from personal luxuries. It began with a cover story. An ADAG company, Reliance Transport Travels, chartered the yacht from a Jersey-based company, Amolite Holdings, for $400,000 annually. This MOU, signed in October 2008, was a mask of what was an outright acquisition, hiding the true flow of funds. Next slide. Here is how the money moved from Amolite Holdings, an ADAG company, made an agreement with Gateway Net Trading in Arcom subsidiary to supply it with 10 million mobile handsets that Gateway was supposed to source for Arcom. The problem, Amolite had no experience in trading. The reality, not a single handset was delivered, a yacht was. Let's follow the money trail. So we have Amolite Holdings purchased the yacht from Ferretti SPA Italy for approximately 8.53 million. The payment was made by Gateway Net Trading, the Arcom subsidiary. So funds flowed from Arcom to Gateway to Singapore and Ferretti in Italy, creating a complex trail to obscure. We have media interviews from then Tina Ambani saying that Anil Ambani had gifted her the yacht, but it wasn't exactly a gift from Arcom. It was Arcom money, Indian taxpayer money, that had bought the yacht for Tina Ambani. To summarize the role of this Arcom subsidiary, first, it entered into a sham handset agreement with Amolite. Second, it received money from Reliance Communication for this procurement. Third, it paid 18.53 million to Ferretti for the yacht. And fourth, Amolite never supplied any mobile handsets. The final write-off. So what happened to Amolite, the company that owned the yacht? It was owned 50-50 by Reliance Capital and Reliance Land. In 2011, Reliance Capital, already running an accumulated debt of over 18,000 crores, simply wrote off its investment in Amolite. Since Amolite had no legitimate business operation, this write-off buried the purchase. And let me tell you, the yacht is now up for sale, we noticed, for about $6 million. We don't know how much they will get, but it was basically essential. This is how the money was spent. Some of the money that he raised through loans was for personal luxury and personal aggrandizement. Moving on, Reliance Infrastructure, a web of financial fraud. Yacht was just one case. We turn now to Reliance Infrastructure. Our investigation shows a systematic fund diversion, money laundering and regulatory violations involving 14,529 crores, unveiling the mammoth deception. So they diverted this huge sum of money. This was done using promoter entities and shell companies moving funds to India and offshore tax havens like Cyprus, BVI and Mauritius. Reliance Infrastructure has an outstanding debt still of 17,000 crores. That is at the end of this last financial year. Breakdown of funds diversion. This chart shows the breakdown of the 14,500 crore diversion. The funds originated from multiple group sources and were funneled to an entity called CLE Private Limited. As you can see, around 10,000 crores came from Reliance Infrastructure itself, 3,270 crores from Reliance Capital, and notably another 800 crore was a quid pro quo transaction with Yes Bank. So all these monies came to CLE, and this summarizes the source, 10K from these companies. The primary conduit was CLE, and it changed its name. SPV changed its name 4-5 times to avoid people coming to know. Then the diversion happened, and then the cover-up. All these entities were merged with another entity called ADAG. So a strain that you will see in the entire ADG group, they create these shell entities, they keep changing their names to throw off people, possibly like us, who are chasing the money trail. And then they merge all these entities with another entity. These entities simply disappear. So if you go and look for something like what happened to that entity is no longer there. So the first name was Sonata Investments, then it became Reliance Energy, then it became Reliance Utility, then it became Unity Engineers, then Crest Logistics, and finally CLE Private Limited, which was it was an NBFC. So they keep changing names. They keep merging it with other companies so that they can hide this entire diversion of funds. So the 4-step fund extraction from different listed companies, SPV creation, CLE used for fund extraction, funds diverted to shell entities in the form of NCDs, loans, advances through a multi-layered ownership, and then finally the funds were transferred from shell companies to promoter entities within India, abroad, and all entities were subsequently merged with a company called Edico Ventures. So Edico Ventures finally ended up having both the assets and the liabilities of this entire shell companies. So this is the entities we have identified as intermediaries in the CLE ADAG diversion scheme. These companies exhibit minimal operational history. That there's no business in these entities. There's nothing. It's just a series of names used. These are pass-through entities. Their function is to just receive these diverted funds and then send them onwards. Yeah. So there were 25 entities that conduits for diversion of funds from CLE perimeter as on 2013. These companies receive funds through CCDs, non-convertible remedial preference shares, NCRP and advances. So we have identified CCD represents 15 companies received that amount, 3,789 crores. NCRP as recipients were 8 companies. Advances went to 2 categories, basically against purchase of shares and capital advances. So we have put it up into different sections and how the money moved in which form. So as of June 30, we identified the network wasn't just domestic. We identified a network of 26 foreign shell companies used for this diversion. We traced at least 14 of these entities to offshore tax havens like Jersey, BVI and Cyprus. They received money from ADG companies like Edico Ventures and Reliance Innoventure. What is the geographical distribution of these companies? Jersey, there were 4 entities, British Virgin Islands 5 entities, Cyprus another 5 entities. This we have, there could possibly be more, but this is what we have identified. Now we move to the next stage of, which one is this? This is the list of all the 26 entities that serve as conduits for fund diversion. Within 3 to 4 years, these companies were grouped into 6 to 10 entities and merged with the promoter group companies. I mean, this is a frequent pattern that they have. They create these entities, then they merge them with promoter group entities. So they disappear overnight. The Edico Venture merger strategy. So the merged entities, so we have identified the merged entities and what was the strategic purpose. Before the merger of Edico, these entities were merged into 6 entities to create a complex box structure. The funds were diverted in the form of non-convertible debentures to Edico Ventures Limited, etc., which were plowed back to promoter group companies at a huge premium. The 6 companies which were used as consolidation companies, here are their names. The names of how they consolidated these after 3-4 years of fund diversion. These 25 companies were merged with 6 promoter group companies, and these are the names of those promoter group companies. So basically it ended up a round trip. You divert funds from your listed entities and give it back to yourself in a different form. Now we move to Reliance Capital, another listed entity, and how they basically took out the money from Reliance Home Finance, Reliance Commercial Finance and Reliance Co-op Advisory. So the amounts are there. Reliance Home, basically the modus operandi that they used was diverting nearly 7,965 crores in loans to 49 entities which were routed back to ADAG promoter companies. Then Reliance Com Finance again gives a loan of 4,980 crores to 27 entities routed back to the promoters. Ultimately, Reliance Co-op Advisory is 1,400 crores used as kickback to other promoter groups like DHFL. Basically, it was a very funny quote that I give you a loan and you give me a loan in my other promoter-based companies. So it was a quid pro quo that was happening. So they siphoned off basically 7,965 crore Reliance Home, advancing loans to 49 entities. The recipient entities are 49 entities. Ultimate beneficiaries were 14. All of them were NPAs. And the source of diverted funds was loans secured from various public sector funds. These loans became non-performing assets, and the company was acquired by Autumn Investments and Infrastructure through a CIRP process before the NCLT. So essentially what you are seeing is Autumn in NCLT proceedings acquires, like you go to the next slide, you will see what magic happened. So it distributes loan to 49 entities that become non-performing asset. These companies share suspicious common addresses, email IDs, shareholding patterns, no business activities. Some names from division company profiles are listed below. Financial services, real estate, media entertainment. So these are the kind of companies which loans were sent to. Then SEBI also in its findings of irregularities against Reliance Home Finance says that these monies, it lists the amount of crores each was routed back, confirming the systematic diversion of funds. This is the SEBI data, this is not our data. In fact, all our data is basically from MCA companies data. We have given you a list of nearly 500 companies which you can download because we can't do bulk data provisioning for our readers and viewers. From NCLT court orders, SEBI orders, court orders, your multiple foreign jurisdiction, foreign entities, sources, and many others. So basically, a bulk of our story is sourced from public documents. So there's nothing. If you go and see our annexures on our website, there is a host of annexures that you will see, more than 50 annexures, which detail the whole fraud and diversion. So it's not something that we are making up in thin air. There is irrefutable proof about all these transactions that has happened. So if you look at the debt profile and fire sale to Authum gained RHSL outstanding debt was 11,540 crores. It got this company for 3,351 crores, less than 30% of the claims. If you look at asset under management, the company, 11,000 crores, it got it for 1 crore. So you can see the wealth destruction that is happening at the colossal state of wealth destruction. So against acquired both companies with 3,352 crores against claimed exposure of 22,540 crores. Interestingly, it is now, Authum is now invoking the guarantees of listed entities like Reliance, two listed Reliance entities in Reliance Infra and one other entity, which is what the bank should have done. The bank should have invoked those guarantees and got their money back. Instead, what the banks did, they said, Authum, NCLT proceedings, you take it, we are not interested in recovering money from this. This is a very bizarre case because Bank of Baroda initially, we'll come to that later. Next. Reliance Commerce, what happened in Reliance Commercial Finance? This is a snapshot. They basically, again, defrauded public sector banks of nearly 5,000 crore and routed borrowed funds through 27 entities in what appeared to be legitimate loans. Power sector shell companies, entertainment front companies, trade and logistic entities. Look at the amounts. And these companies do nothing. They are just vehicles for, diversion of funds. Reliance Corporate Advisory diverted another 1,400 crores to intercorporate loans. Yes Bank, you would have seen a lot of this ED and CBI Brohua about how they have finally cottoned down to just this bit. How Yes Bank and Vasu Bhavnani, Vadhavan, DHFL and others lent them money. It was a quid pro quo. You sort of lend me, I will lend to you. And I was seeing some media report today about how Anil Ambani, CBI or ED is alleging that Anil Ambani had a personal meeting with Yes Bank where nobody was present. The Yes Bank promoter, Mr. Rana Kapoor. Of course, this is unconfirmed. I've just read a media report about it. What is the Vadhavan connection? If you remember, in 19 we broke the DHFL scam, and which led subsequently to the arrest of the promoters down the line and subsequent CBI and ED proceedings against them. There was a quid pro quo between the ADA group and the Vadhavan brothers of Diwan Housing. Loans extended, loans received, never repaid. The loans, so you give me loan, I will give you loan, and none of the Anil Ambani companies ever repaid these loans. So which was understanding between them. Outward flow to Vadhavan Holdings 90 crores, RCFL to Vadhavan Holdings 195, total extension, and then of course Kunj Bihari, these are all ADAG companies. Reliance Capital. Now Reliance Capital was also a listed entity and it owned several other Reliance companies. represents one of the largest corporate total NCLT claims outstanding dues was 26,000 about 26,000 crores. Approved bid by NCLT, which finally IndusInd Land International acquired for about 9,861 crores. Losses to public sector banks of nearly 16,000 crores, and the ultimate beneficiaries of the scheme were ADG companies. Now, this is a bit of a Hollywood connection that we found. If you remember, he invested big in Hollywood. Steven Spielberg was making movies from him in a 50-50 venture in Hollywood, etc., etc. Now, remember that the holding company of ADG Group is Reliance Innoventures. We will come to that. So, Reliance Innoventures was where ultimately a lot of the siphoned funds went. And the initial tranche of the money that Steven Spielberg received was from these siphoned off diverted funds, illicit funds. So basically, scam fraud money was used to fund their Hollywood ambitions. Indian taxpayer money was used to fund the films of Spielberg. I mean, we have tracked some of the funds, we are on to see where the bulk of the funds came from. So this is the whole money trail, which is there on our cover story. So all of this in a very detailed manner there in our 50-page cover story. So I'm just giving you brief glimpses of it. So don't worry, it's there on our website. You will all get a press release, so you can all have a look at it. So this is the entire sort of graph about how the money moved from different companies and finally went to from Reliance Innoventure. It went to a corporate structure, and then the funding route and how Spielberg and other movie companies were funded by the ADAG group. Partnership structure, we have explained how Reliance Big Entertainment US were constituted, who owned Reliance Entertainment in US was 50% owned by Reliance Interactive Advisors, RBP Entertainment. Let me tell you, it was a constant headache to us to follow all these companies. I mean, which sane group creates these multiple entities, changes their names, merges them with others? There's no logical reason to be doing this. There's no logical business reason, no logical financial reason, except if you want to divert and siphon out public money. I mean, that is the only reason that we could come out. That is what has been happening. Following the money, these are the interactive advisors. So basically 1630 crores lands up in Reliance Big Entertainment US, drawing from his chest of, so ultimately 3700 crores went to the US subsidiaries, and this is the total amount of what happened. And from this kitty the entire money went, and basically 16, so that whole money, if we get, we will explain further, the offshore empire, how they created this Hollywood thing. Indian operation, there were about 12 entities, United States 14 entities, United Kingdom 54, Singapore another entity. So now basically what had happened is, when you send money outside for business purposes, you are supposed to file an annual performance report with the RBI. So what these companies are doing, they are sending money for making films, and they're declaring it most of the loss in the 1 or 2 years of sending the money. Now, commonsensically, I mean, I'm just a layman's perspective to it. When you make a movie, it's over a period of time, 4-5 years, that you know whether you're getting the money back or how much money, whether there's a loss, because there's a gestation period of making a film, there's a gestation period of it going to the market, there's a gestation period of the funds coming in, etc., etc. But they were sending the monies and they were declaring losses nearly simultaneously. So this is something and we don't really know, because they haven't answered our questionnaire, whether they did file annual performance reports with the RBI. And we cannot really access a detailed profit and loss balance sheet from Steven Spielberg's company in the US. It's just a simple page. It doesn't tell us how the monies were spent, how these massive monies were spent. And let me tell you, a lot of these monies was siphoned off money from the public money from India, siphoned off money from the banks. Like, we all wonder where the money went. The money went in yachts, the money went in making Hollywood movies. I mean, dreaming up, living a lifestyle, which none of us can aspire to, and this is how the money went. Some of the money went. We really don't know where the bulk of the money went, but this is what we managed to track down. Now we come to a very, very interesting case. This is the initial, which I told you, $1.53 billion, dodgy foreign deals that have been happening. So a person called, let me just tell you and then you can go through the slides. There was a company was opened in July 2006, Reliance Projects Pte Limited in Singapore by somebody called NG Darsian. It could be a Singaporean citizen. It was a US $1 company. US $1 company. Immediately within 6 weeks, around 6 weeks, the ADAG group comes to know that somebody has opened a company in Singapore by the name of Reliance. So they say, no, bad boy, you cannot do this. Very, very bad boy. So the bad boy says, okay, sorry. What I will do is, I will give the shares of this company in your custody till the name is changed. And once the name is changed, you give it to an entity called Pollack, and Pollack will tell you who to give the shares to. So ultimately the shares came to be owned by a company called ME2, and the company name was changed to Emits. The company, which was Reliance Pte Limited, changed its names to Emits. Now strangely, one morning there's a next gen company, and Emits raises through loan of $750 million from NextGen. The company is still owned by a certain Mr. Sian. Reliance is only the custodian. Suddenly $750 million comes in that company, and $750 million the same day comes to it remits the entire money to AAA Sons Enterprises in India. And AAA Sons Enterprises further downstreams it to AAA Facilities Solution. The 4 entities and then from AAA Facilities it further goes to 4 other companies. And then from 4 other companies it goes to Reliance InnoVentures. So the holding company of ADAG Group. So we have brought you a chart of how this emits. Reliance PT, it goes to AAA Sons, then AAA Facility Solutions, then it goes to 4 other companies, the amounts that moved, and finally it comes to Reliance InnoVentures, the holding company. Now, your company, which became Emits, which remitted to AAA Sons, all of you know there's a FIRC certificate that the Reserve Bank of India issues, Foreign Inward Remittance Certificate. So obviously, AAA Sons would have given the Emits you would have issued a foreign inward remittance or whatever the bond. It came in the form of preference shares, etc., etc. Emits, which gave $750 million to AAA Sons, has disappeared, is dissolved. These 4 downstream companies have merged and they have also disappeared. Only the beneficiary survives, which is the ADAG Group's InnoVentures. So the money ultimately is there in the ADAG Group. Only the ADAG Group is enjoying the money. Who has given the money, why they have given the money, we don't know. But nobody is questioning where this $750 million disappeared. Why did it come? Why did it end up with ADAG Group? Of course, the Disappearing Act, and all these are AI generated images, caricatures, so to speak, of the modern digital age. So as I said, Emits is dissolved, the subsidiaries merged, and the trails were erased. Basically, he's removing the loops of how the money moved. Of course, let me tell you, the money moved here on the pretext of going to the Dadri project, which was a power plant in India. So it came on the pretext of Dadri, but end use was changed and something else happened. Now this is again a Dadri project. Money which came in, $300 million, gas fired, unfulfilled promise. Then again this money, $275 million, was remitted back to Singapore. So a company is taking the money, which is for the Dadri, ostensibly for the Dadri UP Vital Gas. The project never materializes. So the reason that we have showed for foreign FDI remittance is Dadri project never happens. So the money goes back to a Reliance subsidiary in Singapore, and then it is sort of provided for and written off, so to speak. No, and this business, the Singapore cell entities, no business. Ownership is 100% RNNL, which is a Reliance group company, funds written off. The entire Rule 75 was provided for in the year 1819. Now, external commercial borrowing diversions. Reliance infrastructure diverted substantial portion of external commercial borrowing meant for the reverse. Another 300 million came in November 2006. It was diverted in a similar. First, it was deployed as liquid funds in Reliance Mutual Fund. Then siphoned off to Gorok Ventures, a BVI-based company. So first of all, end use was again something Dadri project. The fund was not utilized in the end use, what purpose for which the funds were raised. So you lied to whoever you raised the funds from. Funds were not used there. Then it was deployed in Reliance Mutual Fund, which itself is a FEMA violation. And then siphoned off to a BVI company. And so again, as I said, 300 million invested in Reliance Mutual Funds, ECB. Then there is another 150 million to external commercial borrowing, which again, all of it was sent, entire 500 million was sent back to Gorok Ventures. So in a shady BVI company. And later this shell company rebranded itself as Reliance Infra Projects. A cosmetic change. As you could see, this changing names and mergers is a Reliance ADAG trait. It's a sort of a DNA. So this diagram explains to you the entire process by which how the funds move, which you can access on our website. So obviously, there's been a colossal systematic failure. Now I've been nearing the end of our slides of protecting public interest. The RBI leniency towards the ADAG group. I mean, if you are looking at the 750 million transaction, the entity which has remitted the money, the entity has disappeared, 4 downstream companies have disappeared, only the beneficiary. So the RBI finds nothing wrong in that. I mean, it is to be fine for me. Enforcement Directorate, CBI, serious fraud investigation, which have just recently got in after the Bank of Baroda audit report came out in 2020. So what were they doing for 5 years? It was only pursuant to a certain point that they even after the audit report came out claiming that this fraud had been committed, no FIR was registered. It was 4-5 banks saying that these loan accounts are all fraud accounts. It's not Cobrapost saying that. We are just piecing together how it all happened. Obviously, the pattern is protect the powerful. I mean, the agencies have just now gotten the act, so I hope they take it to a logical conclusion. So where is the money? Where did the money go? We have identified some of the money, where it went, yachts, Hollywood dreams, etc., etc., and we have traced it back to the holding companies. Now let the agencies come up and tell us where did the money go? You know, we don't have access to bank statements, we don't have access to a lot of other things the agencies have access to. So it is up to the agencies to tell us where the money went. We have cracked how the money moved, but ultimately, and how it went to the holding companies of ADAG group, and we have tracked some of the monies and how they spent it, but ultimately where did this money go is the big question. Will there be justice? And who else knew? Can these amount of diversion of funds happen without bank connivance or without the bank knowing? I mean, you are lending such massive sums of money and you don't know how your money is being spent. And of course, can it happen again? Are we prepared for it? Are we are our regulations enough? Or maybe is the implementation of the regulations enough so that it doesn't happen again? And of course, this is the last slide, a ledger of lies. This is what has been happening. And this was just a brief presentation. A very, very detailed cover story is there where we are crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's. And you can read all of it on www.cobrapost.com. You can see some of the videos on YouTube and Facebook, of course. The disclaimer at the end of it, which you can see. And now I think I've spoken enough, and I would like to immediately go to my sort of mentor, Prashant Bhushan, in many ways, a mentor of all our journalists. Whether he is a lawyer or a journalist is sometimes deeply in our position, because he is the go-to person for all of us when we sort of discover scams, what to do, what not to do. Prashant, what are we using on this?
So this is a important investigation done by Cobrapost, and it shows many things about how this country is being allowed to be systematically looted and plundered by giant corporates like the Anil Ambani group. So what it shows is that way back from 2006 onwards, 5-6 onwards, this siphoning out of funds. So the modus operandi broadly was that they used to take large sums of loan from the banks, this group, for their various companies. They used to also get some public money from unsuspecting investors, etc. Then they opened a large number of shell companies, mostly abroad in tax havens, and they siphoned out in the various methods which you have seen. They siphoned out most of these funds, or substantial amount of these funds, through these shell companies, laundered them, brought them sometimes to some other holding companies, sometimes used to purchase yachts, etc. And I suspect that a large sum of this money, or substantial sum of this money, is still residing abroad with various entities which are abroad. Now this scam, this sort of massive, gigantic scam, was happening from 2005-6 onwards. And so many banks had lent money. State Bank, Bank of Maharashtra, Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, various other banks had lent thousands of crores to the various companies of Anil Ambani. It was their job, their duty to keep track of how the funds were being spent by this group. But unfortunately, none of the banks did anything until recently. In the last couple of years only, State Bank of India, Bank of Maharashtra, Bank of Baroda and Bank of India have now said that there has been fraudulent diversion of funds and therefore there needs to be a CBI investigation. But what were they doing for the last almost more than 15 years? For 15 years, the banks, thousands of crores were allowed to be looted. Were they just soft peddling this because there was government pressure? And the government pressure can be seen from the fact that in 2015, almost 10 years after this fraud starts, and clearly the government and the banks would have known about this fraud. No doubt about it. I have not even an iota of doubt that they knew how this fraud was happening. And then this gentleman, Anil Ambani, he opens one Reliance defense company, and within few days of setting up this new company, he is given offset contracts for this Rafale deal to a man who has systematically plundered public funds. And yet this government, run by this Prime Minister, gives them offset contracts, and he claims in a press conference that he has got 30,000 crores of offset contracts from this Rafale deal. But it is astounding what is happening. Finally, even after the banks are forced to lodge these complaints of siphoning out, when it was no longer possible to hide it, they are forced to do it. Even then this fellow is not arrested. This fellow declares bankruptcy everywhere. After siphoning out tens of thousands of crores, 40,000 crores he has siphoned out, He declares bankruptcy everywhere and he is roaming around freely. I mean, there are so many people in India who have been arrested for money laundering, etc., where there is virtually no money laundering. Just because they happen to be people who are questioning the government. And this fellow who has siphoned out 40,000 crores, so transparently clear that he has siphoned out 40,000 crores, is roaming around freely in this country. Not being arrested by the CBI, not being arrested by the ED. Obviously, there is a reason for the government to be protecting him. What the reasons are, investigative journalists need to discover what the reasons are. Why is the government protecting him? What does he have on the government or the Prime Minister on the basis of which they are protecting him? Is it a mutual blackmail that is happening? What is happening? Why is this happening? So I'll leave it here.
Of course, we don't know anything about why he or she, that is Prashant sir's views. And I'd like to go to Puranjay sir for his comments. And briefly, actually, I want to also, one of the allegations yesterday that the Reliance notice sent to us, which Puranjay rightly pointed out, has engaged, they have said that Anil Ambani of Cobrapost is engaged in improper and coercive tactics, seeking extraction concessions and more than meets the eye from Reliance Group under the guise of professional and impartial journalism. Let me sort of deny this outright. I have never met Anil Ambani in my life. I have never met actually anybody from his group in my life that I remember. I have never sort of approached him. The only time that I have approached him is with a questionnaire on October 19. So this systematic pattern of trying to throw mud on journalists who dig up stuff on them, and the notice claiming defamation before we had published the story, claiming that we have in contempt of courts because a lot of these criminal proceedings are going out and this press conference would be a sort of interference in the criminal justice system of the country is all specious, and we totally deny that we are doing anything like that.
Thank you, Anil. Brothers, sisters, till last evening, I was flooded with telephone calls from people knowing me in the government, in the intelligence agencies, in the corporate sector, including the Reliance Anil Ambani group. These phone calls would come. And I was asked, do you know what this is all about? I said, Mr. Anil Ambani has said it concerns a large group. What do you want me to say? He said, do you know the name of the group? So I said, no. And till last evening, when the legal notice was sent to Mr. Anil Ambani, I had no idea that it was the Anil Ambani group. By the way, it was obviously done in a big hurry. Naik and company advocates, they have misspelled his name, the opening line. As journalists, we just realize what they do. What the facts are, it is for not just all of you to decide whether the facts are correct or the facts are incorrect, whether the conclusions that he has drawn from those facts how correct or incorrect. It is not just the job of all of us, you included, all of you are sitting here, to verify and cross-check what is done. It is the job of the agencies of the government of India. The Enforcement Directorate of Enforcement, the Central Bureau of Investigation, the Serious Fraud Investigating Office, the various other Securities and Exchange Board of India, other judicial, quasi-judicial bodies whose job it is to verify whether this information is accurate. If he has not, if he has lied, if he has given it, Mr. Anil Ambani has put out information which is factually incorrect, then you have to take action against him. But making a blanket statement that he's an extortionist, on the social media there's such a lot that is being taught. One particular social media handle alleged that Shri Behal has got $1.5 billion. I said, Anil, हमें कुछ दे दो यार। तुम्हारे पास लाखों करोड़ रुपया आ गया, हमें जिंदगी तो 1 करोड़ रुपया नहीं दिया, कुछ हमें दे दो। So he laughed. So on the social media, you can see anything. But what you have to look at is the documentation that has gone into this investigation. And I know, without knowing the name of the group, that he has been working on it for months. Now he is described as a blackmailer and extortionist. Let them see what they have to. I want to just make a few points. The modus operandi, it's been going on for very long. Changing names of one from A to B to C to D to. Why? So that it's not easy for people to find out who are the original owners. What they call in technical language the beneficial owners. And the rules are changed. The rules are changed even by SEBI. How do you determine who is the beneficial owner? So, company A is owned by company B, is owned by C. You have to draw a family tree of company. Now, obviously, he's done this. The second allegation that has been made against Mr. Behal is that he is doing at the behest of some corporate rival, unnamed corporate rival of the Anil Ambani group, who, because of his investigation, their share market, their share values will fall, their share prices will go up, and then they become easy takeover targets. This is the allegation. You can't manage your own affairs, so you shoot the messenger. This is what has happened. And my own personal experience tells me how these defamation cases are not used. They are misused, they are abused to intimidate and harass journalists. And I know this from my personal experience. And this is Anirudh's day, it's his story, it's his investigation. I don't want to say anything more. I have seen what has happened to me. In the last 10 years, little less than 10 years, or 8 years actually, I have been served with 7 defamation notices. 5 in Gujarat, 1 in Rajasthan, and most recently 1 in Delhi. By the corporate conglomerate headed by Shri Gautam Adani, naming him. Now, I'm fighting all these cases. I don't want to get into any more detail. Let the Anil Ambani now sue him instead of sending a messenger. What were they doing from the 19th of October? If they really thought after he sent the questionnaire that he has manhani kiya, तो आप इतने दिन क्या कर रहे थे? आप 10 दिन सो रहे थे। कल शाम को आपने नींद से आपके उठ के बता रहे हैं ये बहुत गलत काम किया, प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस कर रहे हैं। ये देखो, ये मानहानि का नोटिस आ गया आपके पास। So, it's up to all of you, the fraternity, the media fraternity, all of you individual citizens, to realize this is what is happening. The modus operandi and the techniques are not new. It has been going on. Why in the case of the Anil Ambani, in several groups, shell companies, tax havens, multiple change of names, money moving from one place to another place to another place, going back to the same place. This has been going on. Now, if the government is serious about taking action against people who are defrauding the public of this country, it's about time they did. They should have done it on their own. They should not have waited for Anil Ambani and other journalists to expose the information. But now that he has exposed it, let them take action. That is required. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. I actually don't have. I don't have that much to say. It's Anirudh team's investigation. I'm always very curious to see investigations that are so meticulous because they are so rare these days. I just hope investigations like this inspire, trigger other journalists, news platforms to start really meticulously scrutinizing information that's out there, so we can see more real investigations which are in public interest. So thank you.
Thank you, Abhinandan. Now let me go to Ushila.
Hey, firstly, great job done, Nico. Like, I don't think anyone does stories like this anymore. Most of us are out of work and we can't do this kind of work anymore. So that's a good job on your part as well as on everyone who's turned out here. This is the kind of support we need also. Because, when notices, we all got copies of the notices because we are supposed to be up on the panel here today. And it's a little odd that on the night before, it's like, all these years we've read about these systematic raids where income tax raid happens systematically on the morning, across locations. It's like that. It goes out on the night before the press conference. You have, I believe you gave them some 11 or 12 days to respond.
And they said you respond by 9 a.m. this morning.
Yeah, and apparently they sent this legal notice. Yeah, I have read it, it came to me too, and it says that you respond by 9 a.m. this morning, which I think forced him to rush to upload the story. Everyone's made great points, so I'm not going to add much except to say that, the strategic use of tax havens, known tax havens. Now that seems very problematic to me. Shell entities, companies which have the same name. So there's a XYZ India, XYZ similar company, US, XYZ Singapore, XYZ DBI, XYZ Jersey. Why? It's all to create a lot of confusion, right? And then these entities, we're learning from Anirudh's investigation that all these entities magically get merged into promoter group companies, right? So that's quite shocking actually. So there's funds which he's saying is going out of the country, or it's in the country itself, and then it's coming back in as money that's just gone into the promoter group companies. Now, this seems to have, Anirudh, I believe, what you're saying, it's begun from about nearly 20 years ago.
That's right.
Right? So that would be since Reliance is one of the oldest, it's a great story, right? Reliance, Dubai money setup came from nothing to becoming very big, and then when its empire gets split, I think it happened soon after that, right? So there's something that's happening for so many years, for decades. Now, there's three people that I really want to talk about, not humans, but three kinds of institutions. From what I read, there's only 4 banks right now which have done audits till now on this, which is the Bank of India, Bank of Maharashtra, Bank of Baroda, and the State Bank of India. Plus, I also read that IDBI has also done a forensic audit for which I think Mr. Anil Ambani is supposed to appear before the IDBI in person today. So I read in the news. I mean, you have to confirm it, but I think there's a court order there somewhere. So there's banks who have lent thousands of, it's lakhs of crores, not even thousands of crores, but lakhs of crores. There's auditors. What exactly do auditors certify? If I see so many entities across these groups, what exactly are auditors certifying? And thirdly, I think one of the most important agencies that we all get is rating agencies. How do lakhs of crores of rupees in debt disappear, and rating agencies still manage to support these corporate groups? It's it's just like paper pushers, that's it. There is no independence. Either there is no independence because they are getting paid by the very corporates whom they are supposed to rate. There is some systemic failures here. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. We are open to taking a few questions. If some of you have some questions, we'll take them and then we'll close the discussion. Please identify yourself.
I am Avish Tiwari from the list. ये जानना चाहते थे कि अनिल अंबानी ने जो पीपल्स के साथ सेलिब्रेशन किया उसमें अमिताभ बच्चन भी मौजूद थे। क्या अपने इन्वेस्टिगेशन में अमिताभ की कोई भूमिका समझ में आए? क्योंकि हमारे पास जानकारी है उसके हिसाब से वो भी पूरे उसमें इन्वॉल्व थे।
नहीं, हमारे पास कोई जानकारी नहीं है।
You mentioned this, 3 lakh 38,000 crores. Just curious to know what is the cumulative amount of the borrowing of the fund raised by the group to corporate bonds or the bank loans? Cumulative amount.
It's there in the story actually. Is there a detailed breakup? I think it's more than 1.5 lakh crores. The total sort of borrowings, much more than that. And then the loss that it's not a notional 2G loss. We have compounded the bank loan loss, the creditor loss. I can't imagine more creditors than the banks. And of course the market cap loss that happened to the company, which is loss to the institutional retail investors and investors. So we have cumulated, so it's not a notional loss.
Bank loan loss.
Sorry?
Bank loan loss.
No, I don't know just a figure off the top of my head. I think it was there in our slide. It's there in our cover story. The exact figure is there because I don't want to go wrong on figures. Otherwise, I'll get another notice. It's there. The figures are there. The total borrowings are there in our story. Okay.
So what has changed in the last few months? Like that not happened 10 years ago. And now suddenly, like if you see the SBI declaring that one of the other banks. So what exactly has changed these few months?
I think maybe my sense is that the bank officers are getting jittery. That Bank of Baroda did an audit in 2020 and they revealed they said that fraud had been committed, that fund had been diverted to related party entities, etc., etc. So it had come out. So beyond a time, sometimes the officers also want to hide, don't want to support a business group anymore, because they don't feel like it should come on them or something, in that sense, perhaps.
There is certainly going to be a response from the other side. And a couple of things which has come to me as a very one is that from 2006 to 2025, there must be a particular period when the maximum money was kind of taken from the bank or wherever. So if we have an idea about it.
I think basically the bulk of the fraud from between say 7 to about maybe 15, 10, 2010 or thereabouts, or a little more.
And since 4 banks have come forward and they kind of have
Declared that fraudulent loans.
degree and kind of panic in the sense that the spotlight is on them and agencies have it. You think there are many banks and then 4 or 5 banks here said Yes Bank. Yes Bank, I believe support got taken in by the agencies of quite a few years back. There must have been something that must have surfaced. It has not come to.
Yeah, they have. I think primarily one of the FIRs is on this Yes Bank thing only from IPOs.
Yes, they are not only banks, there are also these non-banking financial institutions like India Bulls. In fact, in the SEBI report on India Bulls, one of the entities which are mentioned as having received loans from India Bulls is the Anil Ambani group, and they in turn gave some benefits or some money to the private companies of the owners of India Bulls. India Bulls is now called Samman Capital.
Now this Rafael thing, this defense thing is very interesting. And I think Rafael we acquired before the 2019 general elections. There was a noise about Rafael. So it must have been around that period, 2018 to 2019.
2015 में हुई थी ना
So
Rafael.
this company which went into defense procurement for kind of assistance to the companies, this kind of surfaced in 2023 or 2021 or
We didn't find anything about
I
it.
have a book on the subject.
All I'm saying is, he came into the defense business around which year?
I have no idea.
Just before the deal was signed. Just before that.
1 week or 2 weeks.
That's correct. If you want exact dates, there is a book which I have co-authored and published. All the dates.
Sir, I know, again, I'm vaguely remembering that Mr. Puri was also involved.
In the petition.
Getting to the bottom.
That's right.
And somehow the
Mr. Yashwant Sinha, Mr. Arun Shuri, and Prashant
Yeah,
Sinha.
the literacy of this country kind of didn't take too much of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Anil Ambani. The current disposition always introduces that owner loan was available since 2004 until 2002.
What loan was available?
Owner loan,
Owner loan.
Congress party, the UPA too, had given these loans and we are trying to recover those. That's why their NCLAT, whatever recovery, 1% or 5% or 10% recovery was there. But that does not absorb the right of the banks to ask for the money or make it resolve or maybe take the assets. My questions are in two parts. One is that between the previous government and this government, is there any bifurcation of how much loans were given during the Manmohan Singh regime and how many loans we required during the
I think-
and the second part of it is that since 40,000 crores worth of NCLAT loans were settled for something like 200 crores or something, what do you expect that does he have any kind of assets, liquid assets, where the money can be recovered actually by the banks, or is this in the aftermath when things are fighting between the two big corporate groups and one is being made as a fall guy in order to save the bigger fish? That's my question.
Look, the bulk of the loans was obviously in the UPA period. I mean, that's sort of where the bulk of the scam happened in that period, and there are no two doubts about that. But often there is a time lag between when the scam happens and when it is caught, etc. So that is, I mean, and I want more not to go into the politics of this. Ki UPA ke samay hua, BJP ke samay hua. We're not really interested in that. This is a corporate group which has listed entities which are responsible to the Indian citizen, the Indian taxpayer, to the stock markets, people who buy their stocks, to the banks who lend them loans on trust, etc., etc. And the second part of the concern was about the loan recovery. Now, there are a lot of, like, we identified a lot of these shell companies in different tax havens. Now, we don't have any means of following that trail, to which ED can have the letter of victory. I mean, they have this whole process of tracking down the money. So ultimately, when the money went to the holding companies, the agencies have to get to the bottom of it. Where did the money go? Is it still around? If it is still around, it has to be brought back to India and to the Indian taxpayer. We can't allow this kind of generative loss to happen and let the people go scot-free.
I mean, if Anirudh can track it with a few months of work.
Something similar happened to Vinod Adani and Gautam Adani as well, right? The cases like pending in Supreme Court, so money is never recovered.
No idea about that, but that's why I flagged that there's banks, credit agencies, and auditors, whom all three of these agencies have to be looked into. But I think a very important thing is that if Anirudh can sit, in his office and track 40,000 crores, is it, of disappeared funds in a few months, the ED, the CBI, SFIO, they have way more resources to do all of that.
May I make a brief comment? Adamjit ji, a fraud is a fraud. It doesn't matter whether it's UPA time or the NDA time. The fact is, the NDA has been in power for 11 years. What do you mean the agency is doing about this? You get very proactive when it comes to certain particular groups or particular individuals who you perceive as being critical of you. See them as your opponents. So we can go into conspiracy theories as to who is behind Mr. Anirudh Bahal and go on. The most important part, are these documents genuine? Is this analysis valid? If it is, then please take action. If we can do it, as Ashwin pointed out, the government of India has vast resources at its command. Much more than what individual journalists or even small groups of them have.
Anirudh, you are researched very well on Anil Ambani. Now, Prashant also said on this offset in the Rafale. What is the status of that? Has he implemented that offset deal, or has it
I really don't know. I haven't investigated, didn't come across people who know it best. You should ask those questions to them. But coming back to the point earlier, the bulk of our information has come from the public domain. Please understand that. if you go through our annexures, the NCLT orders, NCA companies, there are 500 names of 500 companies which we have uploaded, which you can download and do the cross the dots yourself. It is not something special that we have done. You know, we have sort of pieced together this where the bulk of the information was in the public domain. So there's nothing sort of, there's no halo that I should wear that we have got some extra, you know, conduit to some information that normal diligence on any of your part couldn't have got.
कि नेवल प्रॉपर्टी और विजय माल्या के डायरेक्शन हुआ, उनकी प्रॉपर्टी की कोई ऑप्शन हुआ, इनको कौन बचा रहा है? क्या इन्वेस्टिगेशन में आपको कुछ इसका एक्शन मिला कि अनिल अंबानी की
सर क्या एक्शन हुआ?
ये मेरे को कुछ नहीं मिला उसमें।
पहल जी, मोदी जी ने कहा था 2014 में कि मैं ना खाऊंगा ना खाने दूंगा। करीब 2 लाख कंपनी को हमने कंट्रोल किया था। इसके अलावा कह रहे थे कि काले धन वालों का काला चिट्ठा मेरे पास है, तो वो तो काफी कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं चीजों को।
आप ईडी पे लगी तो है, इनसे लगी है।
लगी कहाँ है? दिखावा
लगेगी वो।
दिखावा कर
सर उस समय उन्होंने भी वादा किया था कि हम सारे काले धन वापस ले आएंगे और हर गरीब परिवार को 15 लाख रुपया लेंगे। उन्होंने वादा
कि अगर दिखावा नहीं कर रहे होते तो अब तक अरेस्ट कर लेना चाहिए था। 4 बैंक्स ने फ्रॉड निकाल लिया, उनके ऑडिट रिपोर्ट्स, बहुत सीरियस ऑडिट रिपोर्ट्स हैं इनके खिलाफ कि किस तरह से कितना दसियों हजार करोड़ साइफन आउट किया है, आज तक अरेस्ट नहीं किया। ये दिखाता है कि ये सब जो चल रहा है अब ज़बरदस्ती उनके सर पर आ गया। बैंक की ऑडिट रिपोर्ट्स वगैरह हो गई, होनी पड़ी, तब जाकर ये दिखावा करने की ज़रूरत पड़ी कि भाई हाँ ईडी ने कुछ किया है, सीबीआई कुछ कर रही है वगैरह वगैरह। क्या चीज़? देखिए सुप्रीम कोर्ट जा सकते हैं, पर आजकल हम देख रहे हैं ना अडानी वाले मामले में क्या हुआ, हिंडनबर्ग वाले में बहुत कुछ हम लोग समझते हैं कि कोर्ट में भी क्या हो रहा है।
So thanks a lot for coming. I think we'll thank you, and soon we will come up with Lootwallahs too.